This is another archival upload of my previous mix critique videos. Again, I apologize for the vertical format that this video is about to switch to. This is 121 through 125. This track was sent in by Matt. Right off the bat, the acoustic has a lot of harsh high end. It sounds like you boosted in the like 2 to 5K range a little too much. I think you were trying to give it that airy top end that sounds really great on acoustics, but you boosted the wrong frequencies there, so now it's just, honestly, it's way too harsh. Also, the guitar, because you boosted those frequencies in the guitar, it's fighting with the vocals a lot. 1.5 to like 5K range is like the cut through frequencies. Like if you want something really up front in the mix, that's the frequency range you're gonna boost. And when you boosted those frequencies in the acoustic, it's just making it drown out the vocals completely. See, when those harmonies came in, they sound like they're really cool harmonies, but like I can't really distinguish them because of the guitar drowning them out. But now with the strings coming in, you kind of have the same problem. The strings are fighting the vocals. I mean, so the biggest thing in the whole track is just the vocals are not cutting through everything. It's not so much that there's too much going on. It's just that you didn't balance it in a way that the vocals are shining through. So what I would suggest is you take all your faders, put them all the way down, pick the busiest part of the song, and then mix the instruments only with just the faders. Get it so it sounds really good as an instrumental mix, and then bring in the vocals and find a way to make the vocals sit over the top of everything else. I think that's probably going to be the quickest and easiest way to fix what's going on here. This track was sent in by Gabe. Well, I'm spinning. All right, those vocals are really, really thin. It sounds like you cut most of the low end out of the vocals. You need some of that like low end roundness in the vocal. As I get down that. Also, that snare sounds really bad. I don't know if it's just your compression settings or if you have the snare bottom mic turned up, but honestly, it almost sounds like a bad snare sample. Yeah, I would say your compression settings on all the drums, you have the attack way too fast. You're not letting the transients in through. And that's kind of what's giving, especially the snare, that like blat sound. Also, your bass is mixed way too high for everything else that's going on in the song. I don't know, it's like everything sounds kind of thin except for the bass guitar, which is just too loud. All right, man, so there's quite a few problems in this mix, and honestly, I don't think any of them are anything that's gonna be like fixable from where it is now. I think you're just gonna have to scrap all the processing and start mixing from scratch, but here's the things you need to look out for when you do that. You're overcompressing the drums, like you definitely have the attack time set way too fast, and probably the release time is probably set a little too long, at least on the snare. You're kind of over EQing everything, like everything sounds a little thin, but especially the vocals. Like you need more of the low end roundness in those vocals. Honestly, you just need to not cut so many frequencies in things in general because it's making everything sound thin. You want everything to like blend together as best as possible. Like your goal should always be to EQ things as little as possible. This track was sent in by James. All right, right off the bat, everything is clipping. It sounds like he pushed the master way too far. The drums are overpowering everything. It's very hard to hear the vocals and the guitars. If there's bass in there, it's like absolutely not audible. Especially those cymbals. Those cymbals are really, really harsh and they're way over the top of everything else. After the intro, the guitars were a lot more audible, but the vocals still aren't. Vocals should still be out in the front of any mix. Like, vocals are what most people are listening to. Yeah, you're also missing a lot of low-mid information. Like, there's just a hole in it, which is probably why everything sounds so harsh, is because with that huge hole in the low mids, everything just sounds thin and harsh as a result. There's just way too much high end without the low mids fighting against it. Okay, that was really weird. I'm assuming you added like an extra guitar track in the breakdown because the first little section of the breakdown sounded the same as everything else. And then all of a sudden the guitars were way louder and there was suddenly a little bit more low end. Like it's very apparent and not in a good way. Just everything's too harsh. You got a massive hole in your low mids. You definitely pushed the master too far. It's a shame because the song itself, like the songwriting is actually really, really good. Like I enjoyed it as a song, but the mix is just painful. This was sent in by John. Right off the bat, drums are way too loud compared to everything else. Like you clearly have very little, if not no, mix bus compression to make everything gel together. It all sounds like individual instruments on their own. It doesn't sound like it belongs together. The EQ sounds pretty good overall. Like, it sounds like you have the full frequency spectrum fleshed out really well, but it just, none of it sounds cohesive. It doesn't sound like it belongs together. You need to use compression to make everything work together, because again, it sounds like individual instruments that don't belong together. It doesn't sound like a song. And all I can say is you got EQ down. Like, the EQ is great. I can hear everything. Nothing's masking anything else, but you gotta work on compression a lot. This was sent in by Sebastian.
Painting pictures for free. When she was done.
All right, couple things. Same as the last mix, you don't have enough compression on pretty much anything, especially the mix bus. Like, nothing sounds like it's gelling together the way it needs to. The bass is definitely too loud. It's overpowering, especially the guitar, but also the drums. It's not really interfering with the vocals too much because it's a higher female vocal. The vocals also sound a little muddy. Like, there's a weird resonance in there that I personally would have taken out just to clean it up a bit.
It's been good.
I also wish there was a little more effects on the vocal, like just some kind of a time effect, a little bit of delay or something, just to give the vocals like its own space. It just sounds a little too empty. All right, so I really like that from a songwriting perspective. It's a really well-written song. I like the vibe, very 60s. It's cool. Just the biggest thing, you got to work on your EQ a little bit. Some things are masking each other. You got a little bit of mud in there you could clean up. But the biggest thing is compression. Things just don't feel like they're gelling together the way they need to. So probably compress all the individual instruments a little bit more. Definitely compress the mix bus more so stuff like squishes together just a little bit. Also, like I said, I would like a little bit of time effects on the vocals. But other than that, like, it's not bad.